I want to talk a little bit today about perception and our attachment to ideas. I listened recently to a talk by Jack Kornfield, who's one of my teachers, and probably you're familiar with him. He's very well known. He's a meditation teacher. And he was actually quoting one of his teachers. But he said, and I'm just going to read this: what if instead of struggling with it's supposed to be this way, we saw it as the way it is? So instead of having an idea of how something is supposed to be, we saw it as it really was. Instead of seeing something as disappointment and difficulty, or instead of seeing life as full of disappointment and difficulty, we saw that life was simply a place for our heart to grow open and our being to become free. In Buddhism, they say the first noble truth is that there is suffering. And the suffering is created from our attachment, our clinging, whether it be to people, to things, to ideas, to beliefs. And I think this is a really interesting counterpoint to how in our society we're all about identifying ourselves by our beliefs, right? Well, I can't be friends with that person because they believe this thing, and I see that as very much opposed to what I believe. We're automatically setting ourselves up for contention. And it can be smaller too. I love the neighborhood I live in. It's beautiful, full of trees, it's very walkable. Go out, walk my dog every morning. I see people. I can walk 2 blocks and have breakfast, have a coffee, have a drink, have dinner, whatever. It's great. And it's the one neighborhood that when we moved back to Dallas, I was like, this is where I want to live. It's the only place, if we're going to stay in Dallas, this is where I want to be. And it's interesting because the thing that I loved about the neighborhood is the trees and the old houses. And I have noticed over the last few years, as I'm living there, a lot of houses are being torn down and they're being replaced by very big houses, about double the size, if not more, that don't really match the neighborhood. And how angry I have gotten because of that every time I'm walking. So suddenly my walks turn from the appreciation of the neighborhood and the trees and the way the sun moves through the trees and how it's just so pleasant to be there and how convenient it is. Suddenly my walks turn from focusing on that to focusing on, oh, that house doesn't belong in that space. I can't believe they tore that house down. They should have torn a house or built a house that at least looked similar to the one or kept the facade of the other one or whatever, right? So suddenly I've begun to create all of this contention within myself, the struggle and the suffering, because now, rather than allowing myself to enjoy the place that I'm living and appreciate it, I'm suddenly very much not appreciating it. And there's no gratitude in it anymore. The only thing that's changed is my perception and my interpretation of what's happening. And in the talk and the indignation, right? That things are not supposed to be like that. And so I mention this because it's a very tangible example of a way that we can exist within our life where we can really make a choice about how we're going to be with it. And as you know, that's really what mindfulness is. It's all about how we are with what is happening within our life. So if I continue down that path of just being angry every time I walked out the door, because now there's one of those houses being built across the street from me, I can walk out and I can say, oh, well, there was a little craftsman bungalow there before, and now there's this big, ugly, square, modern looking thing. They're supposedly American Foursquare, which okay is technically from the years, right? Technically part of the years that these houses were born. Or I can continue to see all of the trees in the neighborhood and continue to appreciate the fact that I can walk to get a coffee, from 4 different cafes if I want to, or I can walk to have a place for dinner. I can sit out on my porch, and enjoy the garden and enjoy the big tree that's in front of my yard. All of the things that drew me to that neighborhood in the first place. And this example, if we're really paying attention in our lives, it's like every day we can find an example similar to this. Typically, it's found in those things that we reject. And that's when the awareness really comes in. It becomes a lesson. Why am I pushing against this so much? Why am I so angry for that thing that person said? Why am I so irritated that I'm not where I think I'm supposed to be in this moment? Let me get curious about that and just stop for a second and realize it's the way that I'm interacting with that particular situation. I'm not supposed to be anywhere in my life than where I am now. So what happens if we move back from those ideas and we suddenly just accept, okay, this is how it is right now? What happens in our bodies when we reach that level of acceptance? When I say acceptance, I don't mean like we just give up on our dreams, we give up on, fighting for justice, we give up on making changes that we feel are necessary in our lives in the world. But we shift the way we view it. Instead of it becoming an obstacle, it can become a lesson. It can become a bell of awareness, if you will. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, I'm rejecting something right now. So let me just sit with it a minute. Let me pause for a minute. That's challenging because our lives don't allow a lot of pausing. Or I should say, we don't allow ourselves a lot of pausing because we really have control of that. So they become little lessons when we become aware of these rejections, these ways that we are saying, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. It becomes a little reminder for us to pause and look at it and say, well, okay, what am I feeling in my body right now? In the case of the houses in my neighborhood, well, it's very direct. That's not the world I want to live in. And then it becomes a deeper thing. Well, now I'm seeing how this neighborhood used to be full of older families, older people, and now they're being pushed out of the neighborhood because all this money that's coming in the neighborhood and all these big houses and the taxes are becoming affordable. And I'm a part of that problem, you know? So it kind of forces you to come back to looking inside yourself. Okay, I have a perception that this is the way the neighborhood's supposed to be, but simply by the fact that I bought in 2020, and that house is, how much more it was when it was built, it's part of the same problem that I'm condemning other people for. So it's really showing me a bit of my own hypocrisy. Also showing how I want to reject things when they don't live up to this sort of illusion that I've created, that I want the world to be. And we can see this in so many examples in systemic ways in society. It's in, when cities are very segregated, either economically or racially. It's similar things, So coming back to asking, what would my experience be like right now if I just accepted it as it is? And we'll notice a loosening of the body. We might notice a sadness at I have to really come to terms with this is not how things are. But in order for us to get beneath that, to work toward any kind of change in our life, whatever it is, in order for us to really be truly living authentically within ourselves, with other people, we have to face those hard things, go beneath it, and really, be honest with ourselves about our own beliefs, about our own illusions, about all of the things that are happening below the surface within us, so we can continue to grow. Growth is painful. there's a process that has to happen. I wonder sometimes about, the butterfly that goes into the chrysalis, or the caterpillar that goes into the chrysalis and completely dissolves and then reforms as a butterfly. And I always wonder, is that painful? I mean, there's no way for us to know, I don't think. Is it painful to melt? I mean, you would think, right? Like dissolving the body and reconstructing it into a completely different form. It's got to be painful. So it's the attachment to our ideas and beliefs that creates the suffering. It's not the belief itself. It's not the thing itself, but our attaching our identities to it that creates the suffering. And I think it's very possible to still believe things, but not be so attached in our identities that we can be malleable with it. These words are thrown around all the time in politics, and how they're uncompromising. Like, how is that a good thing? I don't know. I don't think that's a good thing, to be uncompromising. You can't get anything done that way. So we're allowing ourselves to, loosen our grip to the attachment of our beliefs and our ideas about how things are, can really allow us to create space, to create some peace within ourselves. And then also allow for the growth, because we can really start to say, oh, I believed this, but why did I believe that? And is it still true for me? Important to have that growth. So let's go ahead and have a sit. And I invite you to just come into a comfortable seated position. You're welcome to have your eyes open with a soft gaze in front of you, or closed. We'll begin with 3 deep inhales and exhales at your own pace. And then allow your breath to come back to its natural rhythm. Allowing your awareness to begin to settle fully into your body. Feeling the weight of your body as it presses into the cushion. Just becoming generally aware of the sensations in your body. Noticing if it's relatively easy to settle into your body or if there's a little resistance. Just noticing. Allow your awareness to gather fully at your feet, imagining it's sort of like a ball, a little bubble that fully encapsulates your feet, allows you to fully feel the aliveness of those feet. Perhaps the temperature of the room, the pressure of the legs on the feet, the feeling of the floor supporting them. Anything you notice, just let that be your awareness in this moment. Allowing everything else to drop away. Fully present in this moment through the sensations of the feet. And very slowly allow that bubble to begin to expand, to include also the feeling of the ankles, the sensations in the lower legs, the calves, the shins. And continue expanding to include the knees, and the thighs, the hamstrings, the upper legs. Expanding further to include the hip joints and the sits bones. And pausing a moment to sense all the sensations in the lower part of your body. And this little bubble of awareness that holds it all. And further growing that bubble of awareness to include the hands on the legs, the feeling of the pelvis, the lower stomach, the lower back, the middle stomach, growing further to include the middle back, the ribs, the upper back, shoulder blades, the chest, the arms, shoulders, the collarbones. Just resting a moment to sense all of your body in the awareness bubble right now, from the shoulders down. Sensing the wholeness and the connection of all of these body parts. Continue to grow that bubble of awareness to include your neck and your jaw, your cheeks, and your nose, your eyes, and your forehead. Finally, closing the bubble out at the top of the head, floating in the awareness of all the sensations of the body. Fully rooted in the present moment through this vehicle of your body. Allowing yourself to remain anchored in the present moment through the sensations of your body. And if you notice from time to time that something takes you away, perhaps thoughts, sounds, beliefs, emotions, just notice that they have appeared. Perhaps label them with a neutral label, something like thinking, feeling. Offer them gratitude and let them go on their way as you gently guide your awareness back into the body without judgment, without force. Where are you now? Where are you now? As we come to the final moments of this meditation, I invite you, if it feels right for you, to place your hand on your chest over your heart, sensing the support that your body offers you, the support it offers you to stay present through all of the feelings within it, knowing this is a place you can always come back to, no matter the situation, the place, the feelings. Take a moment to offer yourself gratitude for listening to yourself, for creating a space in the day for you to pause, check in, to release and relax. And I'll close out this meditation with this poem by Ellen Bass called "The Thing Is." The thing is to love life, to love it even when you have no stomach for it, and everything you've held dear crumbles like burnt paper in your hands, your throat filled with the silt of it. When grief sits with you, its tropical heat thickening the air, heavy as water, more fit for gills than lungs. When grief weighs you down like your own flesh, only more of it. An obesity of grief, you think. How can a body withstand this? When you hold life like a face between your palms, a plain face, no charming smile, no violet eyes, and you say, yes, I will take you. I will love you again. When you're ready, you're welcome to open your eyes and come back into the room.